right, we are on stage. Let's wait a couple, maybe a minute or two for any late participants before we start. All right. Welcome, everyone. It is a pleasure to host you here on this event. We appreciate your time and your participation. First of all, before we move forward, I would like to make sure that you can see and hear me. If you can, please post any message in the chat that you see on your right-hand side. Okay, great. Thank you very much. So hello, everyone. Yes, the webinar's content will revolve around achieving GxP excellence and how Cornerstone can help you enhance your compliance and efficiency. But before we jump into the topic, we would like to share a couple of words about us. As some of you may know, Cornerstone On Demand is one of the leaders in the HCM systems area, and that includes their best-in-breed learning management system. As eConsulting, we are an official partner of Cornerstone, and as such, we help implement, integrate, and increase the usability of the platform. Our focus has always been life science companies, and that's because we have our own internal quality assurance and validation divisions. And that is why we understand the importance of GxP processes, and we actively support our customers in implementing and maintaining them. We have been on the market for over 20 years, but our cooperation with Cornerstone has been spanning for more than a decade now. And at that period of time, we have helped over 450 customers. In the Cornerstone area alone, we have 85 consultants that can help you in over 14 languages. We are almost ready to take you through nook and crannies of today's topic. And here is how we intend to structure today's webinar. We are going to talk about market trends that are relevant to the topic. Then we will discuss the current challenges that life science companies face in the area of compliance trainings. And I am sure those will resonate with many of you. Then we will go over some case studies that show how those challenges can be addressed to achieve certain improvements. And then we will proceed to talk about specific solutions that can improve compliance and efficiency, required training tagging, and training models. So stay tuned for this part specifically. And at the end, we will allocate some time to a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat at any time so that they don't slip your mind later on. As to today's speakers, we have three people on the stage. Sławomir Kwiatkowski, who is our GxP release operations manager at eConsulting. He has been working with Cornerstone for over 10 years now and has helped tens of customers streamline their approach towards trainings while ensuring compliance. We also have Eric Collette with us today, who is a product manager at Cornerstone, whose role is solely focused on making lives easier for Cornerstone's customers in regulated industries. And myself, Mateusz Falkus, I lead our sales team at eConsulting for everything HCM related. I am responsible for discovering the pain points of our customers and finding the right solutions and resources to address those. And now, over to Sławek, who will take you through the market trends.
Thank you, Mateusz. So hello, everyone. So as you probably noticed, everything is changing around us. And these changes are also happening in life science industry. So there is a lot of new technology and unfortunately a lot of regulation changes which impact how companies operate. So here we have the key change drivers. So that's the rise of artificial intelligence and automation in research and operations, stricter compliance requirements like GxP, GDPR, and ISO, and also more focus on personalized medicine and digital health tools. And all of these brings both challenges and opportunities. And yeah, I will explain that in a moment. So currently LMS market is growing really fast. Why is that? Digital transformation is driving the LMS growth, especially in life science sector. And just to be clear, LMS here stands for Learning Management System. So globally, life science LMS market is expected to grow from 1 to 3.5 billions in 2030. And European LMS market, including all industries, not only life science, is expected to grow from almost 5 to 25 billions in 2030. So this growth is basically because companies need to find better ways to, first of all, manage compliance, manage how to upskill employees, and provide engaging learning programs.
Yes, and my discovery meetings with prospects usually revolve around those topics. How to
Mhm.
upskill your employees while ensuring compliance via mandatory trainings. So, like, are there any specific trends that you are seeing on a regular basis that influence the sector?
Mhm. So, as I mentioned, AI and automation are optimizing everything from drug discovery to clinical trials. Personalized medicine is also growing with more focus on tailored therapies, again, supported by technology. Software is a now key part of medical devices. Tools like software as a medical device, SAMD, are becoming more common. Most probably you're wearing one of these on your wrist right now. And then these are connected with digital health tools, which are also becoming very popular these days. And all of these forcing regulations to change in order to keep up with the technology.
And how do those trends translate into challenges for companies in the regulated sector?
Mhm. So, as we already know, the life science industry operates in a highly regulated and complex environment. So, frequent changes to regulations make it harder to stay compliant, especially for organizations working in many countries. There's also more pressure to bring new therapies and new devices to the market very quickly. So, companies must balance the focus between innovation, which helps to become more competitive, and the obligation to follow regulatory requirements. And speaking of which, so being compliant is a major operational challenge for life science organizations. The average cost of compliance violation is around 4 millions, and audits and inspections are increasing in both complexity and intensity. So it's hard to keep employee training up to date with all of these regulation changes. And not following the rules can result in significant financial penalties. So another challenge is to finding and keeping skilled employees, especially in areas like genomics or biotech. Turnover rates are also very high. Average voluntary turnover is around 11%, which make it harder to keep things running smoothly and increase hiring costs. And as the technology moves fast, employees need to keep learning to develop their knowledge. As a solution, companies may implement LMS platforms to offer flexible and personalized training, which may help to close these skill gaps. So now we understand how these trends are directly influencing the challenges that regulated companies have to deal every day. And of course, in addition to the obvious mentioned challenges like compliance, skill gaps, there are a couple more that we cannot ignore, like a resistance to change, especially when the benefits of a new system are not that clear, or cybersecurity concerns, or finally integrations, which become even harder as the companies build more complex IT environment with HR systems, DMSs, document management systems, and quality management platforms.
Yes, thank you, Slavik, for taking us through the challenges. Based on what I am seeing when talking with our customers, The skills gap creates a real problem for companies that is not always easy to address, especially in heavily regulated industries, where, to be honest, seeing a reluctance to change is more common. So even though you're trying to address a problem, you're meeting some obstacles on the way. Moving on, Sławek, is there a way to mitigate those challenges or convert them into opportunities?
Yeah, so that's the main good news here. So these challenges can actually become opportunities. So if a company reacts in the right time with the right strategy and the right LMS system, so modern LMS can support compliance and help avoid penalties related to miss or delayed training. And supported with an AI, it simplifies training management and automate reporting on provide insight, very useful during audits, for example. It also changed the learning experience. So no more frustrating, boring slide clicking. Instead of that, learning becomes more engaging, personalized, and motivating to complete the course. So in the end, it can have a real impact, not just on compliance, but also on companies' competitiveness and employee retention.
All right. Thank you, Sławek, for the analysis of the trends and challenges and opportunities that those bring with them. This is certainly very helpful and I bet familiar to many of you here. And now, could you please take us through specific examples based on case studies, as it is always better to talk about real life scenarios?
Yeah, sure. It's always better to bring some real life examples. So let's have a look on this one. So in this project, we help our client's optical department solve their major challenge. So previously, employees from optical stores had to be manually added to the system, and this process was, of course, time consuming and difficult to manage. So we have implemented self-registration forms, which led the store employees to register themselves. Employees are now automatically assigned to the right optical store and then to the right training materials. So this change eliminates manual errors and reduces the time needed to onboard new employees. It also helps internal teams to focus more on strategic tasks rather than admin work. And so overall, this automation brought faster access to the critical product training and much smoother onboarding experience. So another example is this one. So here, client improved their technician certification process. So previously, technicians need to manually track their certification deadlines, and the company need to manage assignments manually. So of course, this caused missed training deadlines and potential service delays. So with Cornerstone system, the process is now fully automated. Certification training are assigned automatically well in advance of expiration dates, and technicians receive reminders and have a clear view of the certification status all in one platform. So thanks to this automation, clients reduce certification deadlines and save administrator time. It also helps ensure that only certified technicians can serve clients' equipment, improving both compliance and customer satisfaction.
Yes, automated registration forms and setting the certification up for your workforce properly can certainly be life-saving in some cases. But it is the use case that comes after those that is my favorite one. It shows how thinking outside of the box for access control can save time and money for companies in regulated sector. So can you take us through the details, please?
Yes, of course, with pleasure. So this one is also my favorite. So here, client connected training completion with physical access control. So before this implementation, verifying whether employees complete proper training before giving them access to tools or sensitive areas was manual and slow. And this increased the risk of unauthorized access. Now, through the integration with Cornerstone system, clients automatically check training status in real time. If an employee completes the required training, they are immediately granted access to the tools or rooms they needed. So as a result, the number of unauthorized access has been reduced and access granted process became way faster.
Thank you, Sławek. those were great examples coming from our customers. And now we would like to talk about the specific solutions that can be implemented to make lives easier. Eric, as vendor representative who worked on creating those personally, could you please shed some light on how and why the required training tagging and training models were created?
Yeah, and thanks, Matthias, and thanks for having me. My pleasure. Um, the reason or the idea behind this project is coming out from the life science practices. I had the pleasure of working with many of the life science clients in the past, and including eConsulting as a partner. And from that practice, from those challenges, this project is born to make life easier, and not only for life science clients, of course, but for all regulated clients across.
Mm-hmm. And what inspired the creation of those tools, and how did it all start?
Yeah, so the start is in my almost in my client success days, client success manager days, working with life science clients and seeing their day in day out practice. So the inspiration of this project, I always say the inspiration is you, uh, all our clients, all our partners, and the people who work with our system day in day out, who make sure that people are fit to operate, to make sure that they can execute with standards, and that we reduce the risk of being out of compliance. You mentioned being compliant being so important. Slavik, you mentioned as well the frequent changes, the time savers. That is really why we created this project, to make sure we could deliver on those challenges we saw with clients.
Hmm. Yes, this is very interesting, and I am so glad to see that you take your customers' requests and inspirations so seriously that you turn them into actual improvements. Could you please tell us what were the primary objectives you set out to accomplish with those solutions?
Yeah, so you have the objectives as you can see on screen, but there were five main objectives, right? And I think the most important one was reducing the admin work and simplifying the admin work, and creating as much automation as we could, right? Slavik, you said the ability to save time and concentrate on more strategic tasks. That is also exactly what we wanted to achieve with this project. And the other one was then the other kind is the visibility, to increase the visibility for all users, all actors, meaning the learner. We talked about the experience that the learner has, and to make it much more fluid and easy to understand, easy to take the training that is required. Increasing the visibility is also for all the team leads, all the managers, all the compliance officers we have in our organizations, to make sure we build that confidence of, are our people compliant, are our people fit to operate. That brings, of course, many additional reportings capabilities that we bring in and enhance with this project. And the main objective for that is to reduce the fear and the risk, of course, of being out of compliance.
Yes, and we know that this part is the crucial aspect of compliance learning in the organizations, as non-compliance is a serious risk that can impose fines and other legal issues. So, absolutely, that's great that those were your objectives. All right, I understand the why and what for now. But it would be great if you could also tell us a bit more about the specifics. For example, how does required training tagging actually work, and what does it help accomplish?
Okay. Um, as you can see, there are two use cases, right? The first one, the case one is when we assign training as required and we want to track the completion of that required training. A simple example, you do not want your reporting to be troubled by potential, what I call disturbers. Like, you have done the training that Slavik has assigned to you, but for some reason another admin assigned it as well. You still want to make sure that the requirement you have assigned, that is taken and fulfilled. So that is the main objective of required training for the reporting side. The visibility side, of course, is also important. It's visible and clearly indicated to all the users who are looking at that training on the user's transcript, that that training is set as required. Now, required training tagging in per se can be used for many use cases, not only for life science training or the GxP training, but for any required training across the board. So that is required training tagging per se, right? It's not only for what we will call then the role-based or task-based assignments that all our life science clients have. That is the use case for training model. Training model is really the capability of defining what the person needs to be trained on to do particular activities. Can be a task, can be a role, can be a job or position, and to make sure that we are continuously tracking that qualified state, that fit to operate state, and having the updates in a very automated, seamless way, right? Without any doubt, without any manual work, as automated as possible. So required training tagging, that is something that we can use for any required training. Training models has a specific use cases for role-based, task-based, or position-based assignments. And of course, it will leverage everything that required training does.
Okay, yes, required training tagging seems to be a great tool for, well, time-sensitive compliance risk mitigation. And you have already started sharing a bit of information about training models as well, which is the second solution we want to discuss today. But I feel there is much more to them. Could you please shed some light on how and why we would use them?
Yeah, sure. So required training models, as we call it, for the ones that we have delivered now in March as an early adopter and as a GA we will deliver in July. It comes from streamlining, first of all, the way we do things, right? To make sure that the admin can do everything in one place. So the training model will bundle all the role-based trainings or assignments that you need. It will significantly reduce the administrative burden or workload, and it minimizes the compliance risks to automated processes and monitoring. So everything is tracked, everything is audited, and automations are, of course, monitored all the time. The other one is, of course, the comprehensive tracking of for compliance. We all know that in a highly regulated environment like our GxP environment, that we need to be able to prove what has changed, who has done it, when it was done, and why potentially it was executed, right? So we have in training models the full modification history. And of course, we have in the backend as well a full audit on top of that. So you can be sure in that case that you're ready for the audit, right? You can really track the qualification status of every user in a very simple way. The learner-centric approach is then the training assignment management is I, as a learner, I can perfectly see all the roles assignments or the training model assignments per se to which I am associated, and I can see how good or in what standard I am. Am I qualified? Am I qualified, but there is some action that I need to take because otherwise, if I don't renew in time or retrain in time, I will no longer be qualified. I can, of course, see if I'm not qualified for sure. And if you are my manager and Slavik is the compliance officer, that information is available to all, right? So we can really have that insight. And for the user, we have this experience of being able to take all the training based on the role. I don't need to search, wait, why do I need to do this? Where is this part of? I can clearly see that. And of course, we
Mhm.
use the required training tagging with training models to give that visibility on the transcript as well, and also in the reporting. Now, for the organization per se, we integrate training models with the people matrix, which some of our clients are already using also for skills. So now you can combine the knowledge piece qualification, which is the training model, with the tied skill. So perfectly, you can evaluate not only the training completion, and yes, the person is qualified from a training perspective, but you can also evaluate how good or how proficient he is then becomes Slavik for that skill, right? To have that skills gap. And then of course we have this continuous monitoring. The self-assessment synergy that we have is that you can of course evaluate that proficiency, and that provides that then the comprehensive training and skills fit to operate what many of our clients start, in most cases start, Slavik, I need to say, looking at. And that is where the market is going, and training models will also evolve with time towards that to support that more and more. And that comes then to the last point. Yes, of course, training models are going in general availability in the July release, but we have a roadmap until end of next year already to make sure we cover more and more use cases, especially in specific scenarios around requalification. You mentioned that, Slavik, for that technician use case. We cover that already today with the training models, but we will cover more and more complex use cases in the future.
Thank you, Eric, for this explanation. So if I were to sum it up, training models is a new functionality released in March for early adopter, going into general availability in July. That you are going to expand further on. And what it does is it provides an alternative means of assigning trainings. Plus, it provides additional visibility for the organizations to make sure that the employees are compliant. Am I right in those?
Correct. And it contains many business rules that were not available before in regards to retraining, for example. And for our life science clients who use SOPs with append version, right, where you can have the current procedure and the new procedure already ready for training, that the training model really captures that and is able to make that difference between what is required today and what will be required in a date in the future when that SOP becomes effective.
Okay.
And Mateusz, what is also worth to mention that Eric's team is also working very closely with the clients. So they have dedicated community which gathering the feedback from clients. So Eric mentioned about this roadmap. So this roadmap also might be updated based on clients' needs. So they are using this solution and they are also providing the real feedback, which might be included in future changes. So this is also a very good thing here.
Yes, it is good that the client's needs are then translated into the changes in the system.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have been working with clients on that roadmap since the beginning of the project. We started doing that.
All right. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Slavik, for those insights. We have come to an end of our presentation, and I hope the information we shared was useful to all of you. Now it is time for our Q&A session. I can see that we already have quite a few questions in the chat. We will try addressing all of them. If you have any other questions in the meantime, please feel free to share them with us as we answer other questions. Question: in your experience, how do most organizations start the implementation process of an LMS? Are there common stages or best practices we should be aware of? And I will let Slavik answer this question, as Slavik has experienced quite a few LMS implementations in his career. Go ahead, Slavik.
Yes, that's true. That majority of my experience is GxP implementation, mostly for pharma clients. So it's a very broad topic, but yeah, I will try to keep it short. So first of all, at the beginning of everything, you need to make a proper assessment. So very often that's a risk-based assessment, which will highlight these system requirements, these system areas which are really critical for you. But very often it is related with patient safety. So you need to do your homework before you will start proceeding with the implementation. It's also kind of a good practice to prepare what you need from this system. Think about existing or future business processes, it is always better to compare your needs with system possibilities to see if your business use cases will be covered and how these will be covered. And unfortunately, some of our implementation being stuck because clients was thinking about these things during the implementation. So this is always better to again do this homework before everything is kicked off. Possessing right implementation team. So it's a good to keep kind of a synergy between implementation team and validation team. So these both teams should collaborate with each other instead of any conflicts. If you really will achieve this type of synergy, yes, so things will be completed very smoothly, right? And validation activities, the validation requirements, which comes from all of these regulations that I mentioned before, all of these will be kept. And yeah, the final state of a validation environment and validation system will be in line with all regulations. So, in other words, will be safe from the audit's point of view. So there are typical implementation phases, especially in Cornerstone system. At least I can answer for Cornerstone. So everything starts from gathering requirements. Then implementation team is building prototypes. These prototypes are presenting to clients, and we are gathering feedback. If needed, we are adjusting this and that things in the prototypes. And once everything is approved, we are moving to UAT phase, where system is test against the requirements or against the business use cases. And again, if everything passed, this phase is completed with a success, then we have wrap up everything in a proper project documentation, and of course validation documentation, and then we are moving to go live and then hypercare, which looks very differently. Sometimes it's called hypercare, sometimes it's called a transition period. So yeah, the names are very different, but the main goal is to help clients to make these first baby steps with a new system, to not leave them alone, but help them to understand how to use this system, how to launch their critical business process at the beginning. So yeah, so this is what's happening during this transition period.
Yes, as you can see, Margaret, this is quite a broad topic. We have a great presentation on how the implementation of Cornerstone on Demand goes. So if you are interested in this, feel free to reach out to us. I'd be happy to show it to you and so that you can properly understand all the steps that are involved in the process. Okay, thank you for this question. We have a question from Jennifer as well. What is the difference between using training models and current learning assignments with curricula? And this is a product-oriented question. So, Eric, could you take this one?
Yeah, I get this question many times. So thanks, Jennifer, for the question. Let's first see the practice of a curricula and assignment. So, and that is the practice I've seen many years, and that is still being used. So you build a curriculum to bundle all the training requirements that a person needs to do, and then you assign that. You create a dynamic assignment, and then the curriculum goes out to the user. The challenge with let's say there are many advantages of curricula first, right? So you can create many fantastic rules within curricula. Now, what is the challenge with that approach? Is that when one of the training's versions, like you have an SOP, everything is done for that user, but now you create a new standard operating procedure that is included in a new version of that standard operating procedure that is included in that curriculum. And let's say that becomes effective in 10 days, right? So what happens is that the curriculum goes from a completed status to a in progress status, right? And then if you get within those days the question of, hey, wait a minute, is this user qualified? Is this user fit to operate? Then the curriculum at status that you have at that time does not allow you to answer that question. What I've seen then is that we click on the details of the curriculum, or that we create a detailed report to see which training in the curriculum is not completed and if that would be a problem. Now, that is something we solve with training models natively, meaning that a training model always checks if all the training that have an effective date, or which we call start date, that is not today or in the past, is done, right? So that means everything is done from a business rule perspective. So what happens is that if that same scenario would happen in a training model, then that user maintains his qualified status. He goes into a qualified pending action status because he has that new SOP to complete by, let's say, the 1st of June. If he has not completed by the 1st of June, then he moves to a not qualified status. But in the meantime, if he completes it before the 1st of June, then he will maintain his qualified status. And all that is tracked. The other use case why training models are different from curricula is when one of the trainings in that curriculum has a sequence or a recurrence, where for instance, you have one training that needs to be done every year in that curriculum. That is another challenge I've seen, and clients are creating an additional assignment to manage that. Training model all does in one, right? You clearly see all those use cases, you clearly see the rules that are there, and you can be confident on the qualification status for that user. Now, a training model does not have a few things, right? It doesn't have sequence, for instance. You cannot say you have to do training 1 and then training 2 and then training 3 and so on. That in that case, the trainings go together. It's a bundle and it's a sequence, right? You consider that as you need to do 1, 2, and 3 together. So that's why a training model will allow to include curricula into the training model. So many clients in the past were asking us to have curricula of curricula. Well, a training model is more or less a curriculum of curriculum use case where you can add different curricula into the training model, as long as you accept that you can only take the completion state of that curriculum as a whole and not the individual allows that are in it, right? That's what a training model will manage, where a curriculum will not be able to manage that particular use case. And believe me, that qualified state, that is worth $1 million, right? It's really so important. And then, of course, the automation. Let's just figure out that what is so different between dynamic curriculum and dynamic assignments with a training model. First of all, in a training model, you do all in one. You do all in the one environment. If you have a training where you need to set another recurrence, for example, with a dynamic assignment, you will need to stop the dynamic assignment and recreate a dynamic assignment. In a training model, you just edit the rules and the dynamic assignment of the recurrence for that training is adjusted. So there are many advantages on automation. The training in the training model always assigned based on the same business rules. So there are many advantages, and we have created it specifically to remove the challenges we have seen with that use of curricula and dynamic assignments. I hope that answers the question.
That was a pretty robust answer. I can see that we will have some other questions about training models later on. I hope we will be able to get to those as they expand on this question. But thank you, Jennifer, for the question, and thank you, Eric, for the answer. Next, we go to Branislav. What is the best practice of stopping training for employees that suddenly go on sick leaves, out of office, or long leaves? How do you automate the process? Sławek, would you be able to address this question?
So maybe we will do that both, me and Eric. So I'm wondering, Eric, what are your experience, maybe related more to training models? I can definitely answer when it comes to usage of learning assignments, which is a functionality which we are using currently in the system. So assignments, these which are dynamic, these which are something which are ongoing process are very often based on organization units. So that might be a division, location, position, or groups. If you understand this Cornerstone terminology, so stopping users from being assigned to the training when, for example, you are longer leave, like sick leave, for example. To achieve this goal, you should somehow hide this person from this organization unit. So if it's a standard organization unit, like position or division, you can switch this person to inactive status or use a custom fields, which will be somehow flagged that this person is out of office. And using, for example, audit trial, we can find when this flag being ticked, right? If these are the groups, for example, which are based on conditions, we can use, for example, this custom field as a condition. So, for example, please gather all employees in which this flag is not in use. So, thanks to that, we will gather all actively working employees. These who are on leave will be for the time being removed from this dynamic group, and thanks to that, assignments will skip them in the assignments loop, right? And once the person will be again get back to or again working, so this flag might be disabled, and then group will be again pick up this person, and thanks to that, assignment will also include this person in another loop of assignments. Eric, anything to add? Do you have any other examples in models, in training models, or?
Yeah, so I think it many times, let's say, depends on what the policy of the company is. In some companies, yes, we do not want to get mandatory training assigned to people who are absent. So for the future, we will certainly be looking at, because there is an absent field that exists in Cornerstone, to see if we can leverage that. Why do we have a potential challenge with it? Is because some companies will say, well, the required training, those don't need to go out anymore, but we still want the user to have access to the learning platform to prepare his potential return after his absence. So it's not a one size fits all, but it's something that we certainly want to look at. And in many cases, Slavik, the example that you gave on having that extra field is one of the options. But we are looking at alternative ways if we can leverage absence field, for instance.
Okay, thank you.
Great,
Back to you,
thank you,
Mateusz.
guys. Yes, thank you, guys. Branislav, I hope this answers your question. In the interest of time, I think we only have time for one more question, and I can see that there is one question that has 2 likes. So let's move to that one. Can training models replace traditional curricula? And this was sort of answered already, but will training models function similarly to curricula in terms of managing revision materials with a DMS feed? Is it something that you could answer, Eric?
Yeah, how many minutes do I have to answer that?
Well, approximately 2, but you can.
Okay,
you can
so
extend
I will give a quick answer. The answer is yes. The training model listens to every versioning coming from DMS or from other resources, right? It listens to any change. The main difference between a training model and a curriculum is that a training model, it's only the training in the training model that versions, and the training model itself does not version. So it always stays the same container, if you want, but we track all the changes, right? And that makes it much more transparent and more solid as well. So meaning that the distribution of the new version via the DMS is captured by the training model, and the distribution will be executed as expected, because with the training models, they have this setting by default to say, well, any new version needs to move towards the user who needs to get it, unless the training model has a configuration which you will see in the July release to not potentially assign a new version to a user. But in case of DMS managed documents, you always want the user to get a new version, right? So that will be taken care of, right? I hope, Frederick, that answers your question.
All right. It's 45 here, so we don't have time to answer the other questions here today, but we have noted them down, and we will get back to you on all of those after the webinar, and we'll try to answer as best as we can. Thank you all for all the questions. It's great to see that we have an interactive webinar. So to finalize, thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your time. We greatly appreciate that. Before we say goodbye, I have two things I would like to share with you. First of all, if you would like to dive deeper into the topics that we were discussing today, or if you would like to see how those newly implemented functionalities work in practice via demo, for example, or if you would like to talk about how to best utilize LMS in your organization, feel free to send us an email to the email address that you can see on the screen. If you include the webinar in the subject, we would be happy to provide you with a free of charge consultation on a chosen topic. Second of all, we would also like to share with you our white paper titled Cornerstone LMS, the ultimate solution for compliance in life science industry. This is a comprehensive document explaining how using Cornerstone can boost compliance in your organization. We offer it free of charge as well, and we do not expect you to leave any personal information behind. So feel free to grab your own copy by just scanning the QR code that you see on the screen. Other than that, that's it. Thank you very much. Once again, we appreciate your time, and we hope you have a great day.
Thanks for making the time.
Thank you so much.